A few hours ago, Aaron's body could be seen laying on a pool of his own blood. Nothing seemed out of place if you don't focus on the blood, other than the body of the person that should have died from blood loss continues acting as normal, except the body owner not waking up. Inside of the said body, for those who were blessed with magic vision, could see golden liquids continue moving through its liquid vessel, same as blood vessels, to the heart and from there to the organs of the body without being interrupted by the emptying blood vessels being rid of their blood. The moment the blood in the body fell to a dangerous level, the golden liquid immediately shined and started doing what the blood was supposed to do. From body defense, nutrients transfer, oxygen delivery to carbon dioxide collection like it was a normal Tuesday for it. While the liquid was working hard to keep him alive, the golden letters in and on the heart also lit up and started sucking something from the atmosphere. When they were collected and condensed, they also turned and started looking the same as the golden liquid. This was because the golden liquid was being spent and wasted as a result of it doing something that it was not made to do. As they said, there is no gain without loss. But in his situation, the loss was being replenished immediately by the runes in his heart, so he was losing nothing. The loss of blood also helped as it allowed the heart to focus on replenishing and moving the golden liquid without having to also pump blood. Another weird thing was that the bullet was still in the body. Normally, if someone else was shot from the same close distance, the bullet would have gone through like paper, but for the body on the floor, it was still lodged inside it. This was caused by the golden liquid that kept slowly improving the body for the period of more than 3 months, making the body get better and harder the longer the time passed. This improvement went from improving the brain, hardening of his bones, strengthening of the organs to improving and hardening of the skin. But since it was done in a slow process, it caused his family and him not realizing it was happening. FBI San Francisco. In a meeting room, there was a conference meeting with people from FBI headquarters attending it. People such as the FBI Director Robert Mueller and his assistants were in attendance through a video call. As for the physical office, there was Special Agent in Charge, SAC, Assistant Special Agent in Charge, ASAC, and the Special Agent in charge of the Intelligence Division. "What is it? You said it was an emergency?" asked Robert Mueller as had to postpone a meeting to attend this one, due to the report saying it was urgent. "Yes, sir," replied the Special Agent in charge. "Go on then." "Yes, sir. One of the people we were doing physical surveillance operation has been shot and is in hospital." "Which one? Be more specific." "Aaron, the creator of Bug Zapper. Wasn't he one of our surveillance targets for protection? Then what happened to our agents on the field if he was shot?" asked Mueller. "They retreated from the surveillance operation few hours before the target was shot." "Why?" asked Mueller. "Our surveillance was to make sure he doesn't leave the country until we complete the implementation of the program in our infrastructure. So after it was completed, we extended it for 2 more weeks, and after that the operation was considered complete, hence the retreat. But a few hours later, we received a report from police that there was an armed robbery in his house. He stopped to take a breather, then he continued. But when they investigated, they found that nothing was taken, other than the target being shot. With that, he finished the explanation. "So what is the urgency in this?" asked Mueller, as he still didn't see the need of calling it urgent. "Well, after a short investigation, we found out that the room he was shot in was his workroom, which leads us to suspect industrial espionage or foreign nations interference and wanting to have the source code of the program. Now that is not good," said Mueller as he started thinking about the consequences of that for them. "Any suspect in mind?" Mueller asked. "We suspect that it is a Russian agent's work. They have been moving since the Facebook incident with the NSA," replied the Assistant Special Agent in Charge, ASAC. "Then why shoot him if they got the thing they wanted?" "It seems he tried to fight back or something similar happened, but from our information on him, he didn't have any hand-to-hand combat training. As for why he was shot in the stomach and not directly killing him, we suspect it was because they didn't want to attract the attention of the intelligence agencies. That's also the reason they waited until our agents retreated from the location." "Okay, keep an eye and give me an update if the situation changes." "I will inform POTUS about it," answered Mueller, and ended the video call, causing the room to return to its calmness. "Looks like he is not going to blame it on us," said the Special Agent in Charge as he sighed in relief. "Yeah, because if he does, we are fucked," added Assistant Special Agent in Charge. 10 minutes later. Mueller, the director of the FBI, could be seen being escorted by a motorcade that was heading to the White House so that he could brief the president about the situation. After he arrived, he had to wait for the president to finish his meeting for him to be allowed to brief him. When he was allowed to enter the room, he entered the office and found the POTUS Barack Obama, the Secretary of State John Kerry, and the Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel. After greeting them, they started the meeting. "Sir, we suspect that Russia has stolen the source code of BugZapper." He immediately went to the main topic without wasting any time. "How did they do that?" asked the Secretary of Defense, as this was a problem for him. "They infiltrated the residence of the creator of it and shot him, but the police investigation indicates that nothing was stolen other than an open computer in the workroom. Nothing else was out of ordinary," he explained. "Sir, if they have the source code, it might be a threat to us," Secretary of State chimed in to the thinking Obama. "Don't we also have it?" He was curious. "We have the program, but not the source code of it," he answered. "So, why is it a threat?" asked the Secretary of State. "A team from Cybercom investigated the program and found that if we have the source code to it, we could use it as inspiration to make a program that doesn't need the source code to find a system's weakness," said the Secretary of Defense. A Cybercom, United States military command that is responsible for conducting cyberspace operations, defending the country's military networks, and securing critical infrastructure against cyber threats. "If we can think about it, Russia can too, and since they already have it, they might have already begun working on it," added Obama, taking the topic more seriously than before. "Yes, Mr. President, if they really are the preparators," answered Secretary of Defense, while looking at the FBI director. "They are still suspects, but we will have evidence of it very soon as we are looking into it," added Mueller. "So what do you suggest?" Obama asked. "We should also get our hands on the source code and start our own work too. This will ensure we are not left behind," said Secretary of Defense. "How?" "Because if I remember correctly, they said it was their proprietary technology, and they are not planning on patenting it at all," said Obama while trying to remember the details about the contract. "We can ask them for it, but if they decline, we will have no choice but to force them." "What are the ways we can use them to force them?" asked Obama, as he knew few of them, but not many of them. The Secretary of Defense smiled as he looked through his bag and removed a document. Then he handed it to the President, State Secretary, and Mueller. "Looks like you were also here for this," Secretary of State smiled as he opened the folder, only to frown after reading the options they could make. "This dude fucking is crazy," is the only thought that could come to his mind after briefly reading the few options on the file, and the more he read, the more sure of his hypothesis he became, because some of these options might cause heavy economic repercussions and destroy the free market's trust on them if they decided to go ahead with some of them. Obama didn't seem to think any differently as he was giving him the side look, saying, "Are you seriously suggesting some of these options? I know this is my last term, but are you trying to get me impeached in its first year?" he asked. This is what the folder contained. Confidential briefing subject: compelling GIA technology to release its proprietary technology BugZapper. How to force GIA technology to release its proprietary technology. Below are several options that the government can use to compel them to release its proprietary technology, BugZapper. National Security Letters, NSLs. This option allows the FBI to issue a letter to the company to provide information like BugZapper for national security purposes. Subpoenas. These legal orders are issued by a court requiring a company to provide certain information, including proprietary technology. Search warrants. It will allow law enforcement to search a specific location, like the company's premises, and seize any relevant items deemed necessary for an investigation, including proprietary technology like BugZapper. Court orders under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA. This option compels a company to provide access to its technology, including BugZapper, for foreign intelligence gathering purposes. Compulsory licenses. This option authorizes a third party to use a patented invention or proprietary technology without the consent of the patent owner or technology provider, after we make them patent the technology. Regulatory enforcement actions. Regulatory agencies like the FTC or the SEC can launch investigations and bring enforcement actions against a company if it's suspected of engaging in anti-competitive practices or violating securities laws. As part of these investigations, the government may seek access to proprietary technology like BugZapper. Trade secret litigation. This option involves initiating trade secret litigation to compel the company to release the technology. This typically involves a court issuing a judgment that the technology is a trade secret and must be released to the government. Cybersecurity breaches. In some cases, the government may attempt to obtain bug zapper or other proprietary technology by hacking into the company's computer systems or using other cybersecurity measures. This is generally considered to be illegal and unethical, and could lead to legal repercussions for both the government and the company. Public pressure. This option involves using public statements by government officials, media coverage, and advocacy by interest groups to pressure the company to release its proprietary technology. Trade agreements. This option involves using provisions in trade agreements to compel foreign companies to disclose the source code for their software products. Acquisition or nationalization. This last resort option involves using the government's power to acquire or nationalize a company to gain access to its proprietary technology. It's important to note that some of these options may be controversial or have potential negative consequences. The use of public pressure or trade agreements to force a company to release its proprietary technology could damage the company's reputation or harm trade relations between countries. The use of acquisition or nationalization can also have significant economic and political ramifications. As such, we must carefully consider the potential risks and benefits of each option before taking action. In this case, we recommend pursuing options 1 to 6, which involve legal and regulatory actions that have a precedent of use in similar situations. Specifically, we recommend that the government issue national security letters and subpoenas to GI technology and seek court orders and regulatory enforcement actions, including trade secret litigation, to compel the company to release bug zapper. We believe that these options are most likely to achieve our objectives while minimizing the risks and negative consequences associated with more aggressive measures. After giving the Secretary of Defense the side look, Obama continued reading the document in order to finish it without raising his head. After he finished reading, he asked, "Shouldn't we talk about buying it from them first?" This was discussed during the NATO negotiations, and they denied, citing that it was their only existing product, so releasing it will make their company unprofitable. Answered the Secretary of State, as he had read the transcripts of the negotiations. But wouldn't doing this make them not want to work with us anymore? As you know, they informed us first about the program before they made it public, to avoid mass infrastructure damage when they released it? Added the Secretary of State. It's a matter of national security. It doesn't matter what they did for us. They informed us because it will benefit them and will also make them be in our good books. Interjected the Secretary of Defense. But this might cause other large businesses to be wary of us, said Obama. If we use public opinion, we could make them hand it over without having to worry about spreading fear to businesses, answered Defense Secretary. Create a team that will come up with plans on how we can do it. Also have them assess the impact of implementing each of them. I will decide based on the report, said the President while looking at the Secretary of Defense. Yes, sir. I will provide the final report in a month's time, he replied, feeling happy that the President agreed with his plan. With that, the meeting ended, and they stood to leave the room to the President for him to continue with his work. In a motorcade heading back to Pentagon, Chuck Hagel, the Secretary of Defense, took out his private burner phone and pressed in a number, then pressed the call icon. The call was answered after about 8 rings. I remember saying to not call me through this number anymore, said the voice on the other side. Don't worry, I'm the Secretary of Defense. I have the US Army under me. Do you think I can't access a secure phone? He asked in return. Anyway, why did you call me? Said the voice, not wanting to continue with the topic. Rejoice, the President has agreed with my recommendation and gave me a month to give him options he can take to move forward with it, said Hagel. That was way too easy than I expected. What caused that? Asked the voice in surprise. Well, God seemed to be on our side, because while I was with Obama, news came that Russia seemed to have stolen the program and shot the creator. This opened a window for me to point the President to the direction we wanted. So when are you reporting it to him? I told him within a month. So have your team come up with the plans, and I will present them to the President, said Hagel. Well, that is enough time for our think tanks come up with a plan that will damage the company. But why are you going this far? Can't you just buy it? Your family is powerful enough to do that after all, asked Hagel. Well, we tried buying it. They denied us. So we need to destroy their product and put them in their place. After that, they will have no choice but sell it to us cheaply, answered the voice. But if you destroy their product, how will you use it? Focus on your job, and I will focus on mine, okay? The voice said and hung up on him. Fuck, he shouted while throwing the phone to the window, hitting it and startling his driver and security team. Although he was angry, he didn't continue showing his anger. He knew the man was a member of a very powerful family that lobbied for his position, and they could remove him the moment he annoyed them. He also suspected that there was their spy among his security team, and if he shows that he was annoyed by them, it will be reported to them and he will have to pay for it. "Mom, when is brother going to wake up?" asked Henry, looking at Aaron sleeping with oxygen mask on his face and machines surrounding him in the VIP room. "The doctor said he will wake up soon," answered his mother with dark circle in her eyes, as she couldn't sleep peacefully from worrying that something might happen when she is asleep. She only managed to sleep a little after her husband promised her he will wake her up if something happened. "But why was some of his blood on the floor golden?" asked Henry curiously. "What do you mean golden? I only saw red even after returning with police." She answered his question without thinking. Realizing what she was talking with her young son, she changed the topic. "What do you want to eat?" she asked him, to distract him from remembering the bloody scene and prevent it from becoming a trauma. "Chicken," Henry replied happily, forgetting whatever he asked before. "Let's go and buy it then," interjected his father to allow his wife to rest a little more. "Yes," replied Henry while jumping from anticipation. "You rest a little more. We need to be in our best shape to look after him. If he wakes up and see you like that, he will blame himself more," said Michael while stroking his wife's back and making her sit down on the sofa in the VIP room. After making sure she closed her eyes and started sleeping, he left the room holding Henry's hand, who was jumping up and down from excitement of eating his favorite food. A few months ago, Aaron could be seen laying on his bed shaking a little as his body was literally forming new blood vessel-like pathways in the body. He was sweating a little as his heart was getting upgraded to be able to do the same job, but twice the amount. When the formation of golden vessels finished, the runes in his heart started attracting something from the atmosphere. When the minimum amount of it was collected, the heart started condensing it to liquid and deposited it to the new golden vessels. While the heart was doing its job, Aaron wasn't the only one in the room. There was his younger brother playing on his PlayStation. Nothing of notice was happening to him, but since the room he was in was currently acting like a magnet of something in the atmosphere, something was changing in him, albeit small. The changes continued due to it reaching a very high concentration in the room, causing Henry's eye to turn golden and see everything around him turn to gold, as he could see something he couldn't see before. But this happened in a fraction of a second, then his eyes returned to normal. He was startled, but since it happened for a short period of time, he returned to play his game and forget about it. This was why when Aaron was shot, it allowed him to see the golden liquid within the sea of blood. The golden vessels started to be repaired immediately, causing only a small amount of golden liquid to leak before healing fully. ROB, Random Omnipotent Being, POV. Looks like your younger brother is in the same trench as you, ha ha ha. Not looking into your future and just watching how it unfolds for you is really entertaining. Ha 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 ha. The laughter continued, as it started getting further and further, returning the place into dead deep silence. Sarah was having a very bad week. She couldn't sleep since yesterday after receiving the news of what happened to Aaron. She visited him yesterday with Felix, but she couldn't see him as he was in ICU, so she had to return. Her worries were lessened after she learned that he survived the operation and nothing bad has happened. She was now having a meeting with department heads for how to proceed. "Are we continuing with the planned marketing of the product?" asked the marketing department head. "Yes, we will continue as planned." "Is everything ready?" answered Sarah. Since Aaron has already finished the product and it is already approved by Google while being in the last steps of verification in Apple, they had to see it through, so that when he wakes up she will have good news to provide him. "Yes, when we contacted the influencer they were surprised but agreed immediately since the compensation is very good. We have already agreed on the day they will start with the marketing," answered marketing head. "Okay, so..." They continued the meeting talking about other topics, not knowing that a crisis was coming their way. Somewhere in international waters near USA, Vladimir was currently in a smuggling boat that was heading out of America. This was so that he could be extracted through Cuba and avoid the chase of FBI in America. although he could have been extracted using diplomats or other means inside of America. They didn't do that as his extraction was neither urgent nor important enough to warrant their use of them, since he had already sent the code through a secure connection to Mother Russia. So, they don't care that much if he dies, but they still try to make him return. "Looks like you're going to be promoted. Congrats," said Pavel, the smuggler, as he was also a member of Russian intelligence agent too. "Yeah, thanks," he gave a short answer as he didn't want to continue the conversation anymore. "So are you going to continue with your field job, or what?" asked the man, showing that he wanted to continue the conversation. It had been a long time since he spoke with someone from the agency due to not wanting to attract foreign intelligence's attention. "That will depend on my supervisor," Vladimir replied in short answer. "Yeah, pray that yours is not as heartless as mine," the man said, implying that something was done to him by his supervisor. This show of emotion made Vladimir curious of what happened to the man, because it might happen to him too. So, he asked, "What happened?" "Well, my supervisor sent me here to become a smuggler as a promotion," he said while smiling with pain on his face. "Promotion? If this was a promotion, what were you doing before?" Vladimir was surprised because no one was promoted to become a smuggler. It was the opposite of it. You need to be demoted or in the second stage of training to become a smuggler as a form of training. "I participated in the operation of Zelimkin Yandarbev," answered Pavel. When Vladimir heard the name, he immediately remembered the name because it caused quite a stir internationally in 2010, as Zelimkin Yandarbev, a former president of the breakaway Republic of Ichkeria, which sought independence from Russia, was assassinated in Qatar. The Qatari authorities accused the FSB of involvement in the assassination, and 2 Russian intelligence officers were subsequently convicted in absentia. "Then who were the ones who were arrested if you were here?" Vladimir asked, as he only heard about the operation and wasn't authorized to read the operation report in detail. The operation was huge, so there were more men than what we normally have in a broad assassination. Among the 2 who were arrested, one of them was Anatoly Yablachkov. He was in the same team with me. The problem is that he was the only one arrested from our team, which led our supervisor to think that we abandoned his relative as a diversion tactic for us to escape, explained Pavel, giving an answer without revealing too much information about the operation. "Are you the only one who was reprimanded?" Vladimir wanted more details about the operation to soothe his curiosity, so he continued asking, which was quite opposite when this conversation started. "Everyone in that team is somewhere they don't want to be. I'm in a better place than most of them." He answered the same as before, long sentences, but with as little details as possible, which was frustrating to Vladimir, but he could do nothing about it. Although the man was angry at his supervisor, he was still loyal to Mother Russia, so he still kept his operation secret even though he was mistreated. Lubyanka Square, Moscow Center. In the FSB headquarters technology department, they were working 24/7, trying to break the encryption of the program they received. Normally, this would have been pushed on the list as they usually had a first-come, first-served basis, but the moment this arrived, orders from above immediately came and forced them to abandon everything they were working on and start working on the program they received. "When are you expected to break it?" asked Vladimir's supervisor. "Well, looks like he wasn't expecting someone to steal it, so he hasn't put too much of an encryption in the program, so depending on our luck, anywhere between a week to a month," answered one of the technicians working on the department. Okay, with that he left, leaving them to do their jobs. Although he was dissatisfied with the amount of time it would take, there was nothing he could do to make the computer work faster anyway. So why waste time waiting for something that he will be informed about when it is done either way? A week later, artificial intelligence was a buzzword that everyone on the internet knew. It usually starred as the bad guy in the Hollywood movies, trying to wipe out humanity with lasers and robots, only to be stopped by some hero with a witty one-liner. From the media's branding, it could be seen that humans had always been scared and suspicious of artificial intelligence. It made sense. They were, after all, beings that didn't need a body, that lived forever and knew everything. Why would such a thing need humans? But that didn't stop people from trying to create artificial intelligence. But that didn't stop people from trying to develop it, from IBM's computer beating people in chess to many other sports. Artificial intelligence had come a long way in the years. But where will it go from here? Well, forget about waiting for the future. You could experience it right now. An app, as advertised by their influencers or people they follow, was on the Android platform and the App Store. The downloads went crazy, reaching 1 million downloads 7 hours after its launch, crushing any competitor for the most number of downloads a day. This was followed by an influx of positive reviews from those who tried it, and this led to more people hearing about it, trying to know what was the fuss about it. T was there taking the #1 spot of the most downloads in a day, and it didn't seem like it was coming down at any time at all. This was nothing short of fiction. No app was that popular from the moment it was released, as it usually needed to start slowly for it to then later gain momentum and a following to reach these numbers of download a day. This was the impact of using influencer from any and all genres allowed it to have a high starting point. This momentum would all have been a naught if the app itself was bad and couldn't make the user want to continue using it, but it was quite the opposite of it. It not only retained the user but also turned them into walking billboards as they were advertising it to their family members, friends, and anyone they were close enough to want them to experience the same thing as them. As they say, there is nothing good marketing can't fix. Ask Domino's as their "Oh yes, we did" campaign saved them. But this app had everything to make it popular. Good marketing and a good product leading it to its continuous increase in popularity by the minute. Artificial intelligence? Making your phone 2 times faster? Worked with both Android and iOS apps? Were they bullshitting us and taking us for a fool? But when they tried it, they found out the claims were really true, as it did what it advertised to the letter and more. Siri and Google Assistant sounded like a child next to this. "What's the download number?" Sarah asked Lila, the marketing manager. 2 million downloads, most of it coming from the last 3 hours, and it continues increasing, answered Lila with enthusiasm. Sarah gave a nod and asked, "Are the influencers continuing with the marketing as agreed before?" "Yes, they will continue for about a week. Then they will stop and let the users do the recommending of it to their friends and family after they get used to using it." "Okay, continue monitoring the response and inform me of any changes that are different from expected." Sarah ended the discussion and returned to her work while feeling happy about the program doing well. Adding to her smiling when she remembered asking Aaron how he plans to avoid it being taken down from the app stores when it threatens their OS markets, Android and iOS. Well, after they downloaded it, it will act just as the assistant and the optimizers and will not immediately replace the OS, because if it does that, Google and Apple will immediately remove it from their stores and ban it. It will not replace the OS until our download number reaches at least 1 billion users. That's when we will announce the existence of premium versions and recommend that they replace their OS with Gaia OS in order to increase optimization. The virtual assistant will make sure to explain to them carefully that their data will not be lost, and all they needed to do was to restart the phone and it will be replaced within a snap. This is expected to work, because during the period we wait for the download number to reach that high, people will build trust and dependence to the virtual assistant, reducing the chances of them denying it. And when the mass exodus begins, companies like Apple and Google will not be able to stop it. Ha 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 ha. Sarah smiled when she remembered how Aaron looked like a villain when he started laughing after he finished his explanation. But he did seem like one, because his plan will leave the companies with no choice but to just accept it. Even if they removed it from their stores by that time, it would be meaningless, as all they needed to do was make a site where they can download it or make it possible for people to recommend it others by just sending them an invite link, and they will be a Wingardium Leviosa away from having it. A really sinister plan in it? By the second week of its release, it had already reached a whopping 357 million downloads. This was an unprecedented rise of an app, and it became a conversation starter, leading to more people hearing about it, leading to more people downloading it. A positive feedback loop, a perpetual machine of success, a fusion reactor for relevance, and a dark energy producer of conversation. Damn. Anyway, the number of users kept increasing more and more, prompting media outlets to talk about it, leading to a wave of free advertisement, ha 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 ha. But while all these were opening, something sinister was happening behind their backs. Google HQ. "What steps are you taking in breaking the program?" asked Bob. Bob was responsible for breaking the security of the so-called GIA program, as orders from above wanted them to crack and learn how the AI works for them to implement it to their own AI. "We are trying, but it proves to be difficult because we haven't managed to find how the inception even works for us to begin trying to crack it," replied a man with deep dark circles, pointing that he might have not had a peaceful sleep of more than an hour for days. "The upper echelons are pestering me to know where we are. Just increase the number of people working on it. I don't care how many of them you bring. Just finish it fast, or else we are dead, understood? Said the man, showing his frustration. This meant that the higher-up were really pestering him to find something. Alas, what they don't know is that they will never be able to do that.
A pour Soul.
The same was happening to Apple, Microsoft, Samsung, and any technological company you can think of. They ended up choosing this way because the company that made it denied everything from buying them up to selling some of their shares or anything of that matter. Everything was denied by them. This was even after companies like Google, Microsoft, Apple, and Samsung offered to buy them for about $30 billion or more, causing frustration on many people. This was also not the only thing keeping the company busy, as the legal department were working their asses off to remove anything that was imitating the program and the likeness of it. This was because the moment the app became famous, nearly 15 copycats appeared. Although they had no functions similar to the real program, they wanted to prevent users going to them, which in return will make their real program seem like a scam. They were giving out DMCA takedowns left and right like Oprah. Those cease and desist letters were going out faster than they could comprehend. While everyone in the company was happy about the success of the product, Sarah wasn't among them because she was currently reading a letter with the members of the legal department. Subject: Request for compelled access to proprietary technology under FISA. Dear GIA Technology Executive, I am writing to inform you that the government of the United States, under the orders of President Barack Obama, is requesting access to your company's proprietary technology known as BugZapper, pursuant to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA. As you may be aware, FISA is a federal law that governs electronic surveillance and collection of foreign intelligence information within the United States. The government has reason to believe that BugZapper may contain information that is relevant to ongoing foreign intelligence gathering efforts. As such, we are requesting that GIA Technology comply with a court order issued under FISA, which will require you to provide access to BugZapper to authorized government personnel for the purposes of foreign intelligence gathering. We understand that the protection of proprietary technology is of great importance to your company. However, we believe that the potential national security benefits of accessing BugZapper outweigh the potential risks to your company's proprietary interests. We also assure you that the government will take all necessary steps to protect the confidentiality of any proprietary information obtained through this process. Please note that non-compliance with a FISA court order can result in legal penalties and other serious consequences. We urge you to comply with this request in a timely manner to avoid any further legal action. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Sincerely, Chuck Hagel, Secretary of Defense, Department of Defense, DoD. They are fucking good with timing, why now? When the owner is still in bed and hasn't woken up, she thought while squashing the letter. What steps can we take to fight against it? Sarah asked. Well, there are a few potential ways to fight back against a FISA court order, said the lawyer while putting his documents down. First, we could challenge the order in court, arguing that it violates our constitutional rights or that the government doesn't have sufficient evidence to justify the request for access to their proprietary technology. However, this can be difficult and it may not ultimately be successful. Another approach could be to negotiate with the government and try to reach a compromise solution that protects our company's interests while still providing some level of access to the technology, he continued. This might involve limiting the scope of the access, requiring the government to sign non-disclosure agreements, or other measures to safeguard the company's intellectual property. But as we know, they can just breach it if they want. But all of these would only work if the government decides to take their time, or the president can just pass these steps citing urgency and other things. The lawyer finished with his explanation. His explanation implied that they can only try to fight back if the government allows it. Try using the court way first so that we can buy time. Sarah chose the first option because she wanted to buy time for Gaia OS reach the needed number of people to initiate the OS exodus, because if it becomes public that the government forced them to give up something, it might be used as a reason to deter people from deciding to fully move to Gaia OS. Another reason is to buy time until Aaron wakes up, so that he can decide by himself. This was because he told her to not give anyone access to the program without his permission, and she didn't want to give it up also. I hope he wakes up before the government loses patience with us and decides to overturn the table, prayed Sarah for his health, so he can wake up and decide by himself. Breaking news. GI virtual assistant reaches 1 billion users in record time. It has been just a month since the release of the newest virtual assistant, and it has already made its mark on the world. Today, the company announced that it has reached an unprecedented milestone of 1 billion users worldwide, and the number is still growing. The virtual assistant, which was developed by the news channels on Sarah's phone, announced that their app has reached the milestone of 1 billion users in just a month's time, shattering and leaving all the records behind, creating its own legacy. They were currently having a fight with government, but thankfully they managed to keep it under the wraps without it leaking to the media. There will be a court session in 2 weeks about the FISA order, which will result in it being known to the world, but that didn't matter too much now, because they finally reached the needed amount of people to begin their migration. The reason they managed to reach a high number of downloads in short period time was mostly due to the good marketing at the beginning, but what followed was what propelled the fast increase of new users. It was the word of mouth which made the milestone possible. Now let's see how many of you are willing to fully move over, she said while putting her hands on her chin while her eyes were focusing on the screen, as any time now the notification will start appearing to people who are not using their phones for other things. This was, of course, to avoid annoying people or harm those who are in need of the phone for emergencies, hoping that there will be the same excitement in moving over, just like when they first started downloading. Somewhere, someone was talking with the chibi virtual assistant on his phone. Nook Nach? What do you want? Heglami hqaq jajvam. Today is a good day to die. Qnos ket jagmi jaj. We are Klingon. It is our nature to die with honor. Hakam. Attack? Someone interrupted them. What are you two doing? She asked. Ooh, hi baby. The man greeted his girlfriend while feeling embarrassed that he was caught. We are practicing our Klingon battle cries. It helps us prepare for battle, answered the chibi AI with enthusiasm while wearing Klingon armor on the screen and looking proud. Oh, I see. That's interesting, replied the girl, laughing at his boyfriend who was getting redder than tomato from embarrassment. Yes. We take our battle preparations very seriously, replied Chibi VA again with proudness in its face, making the girl and the boy break out in uncontrollable laughter. Well, I wish you luck in battle, she replied while laughing. Thank you, Kapla, replied the virtual assistant while giving her a Klingon salute. Later that day, when the man was playing with his phone, a notification appeared on the screen. The notification informed him that he can have more optimization and other perks by making the program its official OS. What about my current data and save files? Asked the man. Well, you can choose to move it to the new OS without losing any of it, answered the chibi virtual assistant. Then do it. I see no problem, answered the man while putting his trust on the chibi, as he came to trust it after it having not caused him any trouble for the period he has used it. So he decided to trust it. This was happening all over the world, creating the phenomenon that will be known as the Great Migration or the Exodus. More than a month has passed since the surgery. Why hasn't he woken up? Rose, Aaron's mother, asked the doctor who is currently doing his daily checkup on the sleeping Aaron. Although it's rare, it sometimes happens for gunshot patients to take longer to wake up. But from our last test results, it showed that he is healing fine and he doesn't have any other situation or bad condition. He will wake up soon, ma'am. Have some patience, said the doctor respectfully, knowing that the mother was worried about his child, and left the room after he finished his checkup. Although they had returned home for the sake of Henry not having to spend all his time with them in the hospital, they still spent most of the time he was in school at the hospital, hoping that Aaron would wake up and nothing bad would happen to him. I really hope nothing bad happens to him anymore, she said, but was immediately interrupted by Michael. Trust the doctors. They want to save him as much as we do because he is their VVIP patient now, and losing him for such a small problem will be a bad PR for them. He said that, but he was also worried that something might have happened to his son. That's why he wasn't waking up. The fear was because he asked the assistant in his phone. It told him they usually wake up in the same week of the surgery, but their son still hasn't woken up even after a month. Although him not awakening can be attributed to an exception in the general rule, what was really causing him to not wake up was because he was currently awake in a room created by the system within his head. A month ago, Operation Room, while he was unconscious, the system suddenly moved his consciousness. What the heck? He shouted in surprise when he found himself in a room that was covered with blue walls, having a bed, a chair, and desk. The moment he asked, the system just directly uploaded all the answers in his head to make him calm down and not panic. I'm currently inside the room the system made and moved my consciousness because it needed me to make a decision about something important. He repeated what the system said to make himself believe what he heard, as it was an absurd situation for him. What decision? He asked, and immediately a blue screen appeared in front of his face with the answer, or rather a question. Would you like to move forward with the merging of runic heart with your normal heart? Yes, no. It was followed immediately with another one to give him more details before he makes his decision. Note: if you move forward with the merging, the runic mana vessels will also merge with your blood vessels. This will lead to the change of the user's body characteristic, and your body will turn into runic body. What is the difference? He asked in his head as he didn't know what the difference was. This was due to the knowledge about runes being too expensive for him to buy. But this time something different happened. Ding! 500,000,000 SP spent to buy the relevant knowledge. And there goes my hard-earned SP. I had to fucking release the program to the public to get them, but you just spent them without even consulting me. Now I have to wait for the release of Gaia OS to earn more SP. But before he could finish his complaining about the system, spending nearly all the SP he gained from releasing Bugzapper to the public, a massive info dump interrupted even his thinking and comprehension capability. This was even after they were regularly enhanced by the system and the golden liquid. After an hour or more of info dump, he finally managed to come to himself and started comprehending what knowledge was dumped into his head. The first thing he realized was that the system had given him a discount for buying it without his consent, as it usually cost about 1 billion SP to buy this knowledge from the shop. Another reason for the discount was that the system deemed the knowledge necessary for the user to make a knowledgeable decision, as the changes are permanent and can't be reversed. Now back to what he learned from the info dump. Although nearly 500 million SP was spent, it only managed to buy the beginner knowledge about runes. The good news is that this also included all the beginner-level runes. So here is some of that knowledge. Warning: info dump, but it is important, so you might as well read it. Runes is one of the many ways used to influence or get access to mana. It is usually used by races that have no access to mana hearts and mana veins, as they can be granted to anyone through the writing of runes into the user's heart and turning it into a runic heart. The level of the runes a person can use and comprehend depends on the level of the runes written on the heart during the making of the runic heart. The hierarchy of runes level equals beginner, intermediate, and advanced runes. The current knowledge only gave him information at the beginner level. In the beginner level, runes can be classified into two types: fundamental runes and property runes. Fundamental runes affect the basic attributes of the material, such as its durability, weight, hardness, or flexibility. Property runes affect the behavior of the material, such as its affinity to certain elements, forces, or energies. For example, a fire rune can make a material burn hotter or resist fire damage. A magnet rune can make a material attract or repel metal objects. A light rune can make a material glow or become invisible. These types will increase the higher the level of the runes become. For a person to be able to use beginner-level runes, their runic heart needed to have anywhere between 100 runes to 1,000. The more runic lines there are, the more runes you can learn, as the brain needs the runic heart to support it in comprehending the runes. And there are more than 1,000 runic languages in just the beginner level, and they were complicated as hell. Well, as for the requirements to use more advanced runes, there was nothing. It seemed like he needed to buy the knowledge for it to know more. But when he looked at the level of his runic heart, all he saw was, it seems its level was higher than his current knowledge. This made him happy. Now, what is mana? Mana is a form of energy that is static and neutral, meaning it does not change over time unless someone acts upon it. It being neutral means that it can be converted to the needed form without using too much energy. Runic body. The runic body is a rare and coveted gift among those who practice the ancient art of runic magic. The body is marked with intricate, glowing runes that pulse with magical energy, granting the bearer unparalleled insight into the secrets of the runic language. Those who possess a runic body are able to comprehend all the runes in existence at a much faster pace than others, allowing them to master even the most complex of runic spells with ease. But the true power of the runic body lies in its ability to use intent runes. Intent runes are a special type of rune that allow the user to imbue their spells with a specific intent, giving them greater control over the effects of their magic. For example, a fire rune imbued with the intent to burn but not destroy could be used to torture an enemy without killing them. Normally, creating such a spell would require a vast number of runes, such as fire rune, preservation rune, containment rune, and many more, each carefully crafted and arranged to achieve the desired effect. But with the runic body, the user can simply inscribe the basic runes and imbue them with their intent, allowing them to achieve the same effect with a fraction of the effort. With those benefits, it must be known that learning intent runes was harder than learning runes as a normal person. But for the benefits he will be getting, it is worth learning it no matter the difficulty. After reading all the information, he pressed yes, and the screen immediately disappeared. Then another one appeared. Do you want to return to sleep and wake up after the process is completed, or remain here? Return to sleep. Remain here. Remaining here will give me some time to think about what happened and what I should do from now on. So he pressed the remaining here button. With that, he was left alone, and without anyone disturbing him, he started planning his future plans. The moment he pressed yes, the heart stopped for a short period of time before it started beating again, but this time it was glowing. What followed next was the golden vessels started moving closer to blood vessels while glowing too. They didn't have too much trouble reaching them, as when they were made parallel to blood vessels. This in return made it so that the length of blood vessels and the mana vessels was equal, which made it easier for the merger to be done without trouble. When they merged, the heart started beating faster than usual due to the volume it needed to push in one vessel being doubled at once, but this was only for a short period of time because the runes on the heart started moving and changing their arrangements, assimilating with the heart completely, making the heart look like zebra stripes but in gold and red. Normally when you mix gold and red liquids, the result becomes orange-brown, but due to the golden liquid being mana, it overwhelms the red color of blood, turning all the liquid into gold color just like it was before. But this golden color could only be seen by people who have magic vision. For those with normal eyes, red is all they will be able to see. With the mixing completed, changes started occurring in the body. Organs started glowing as the runic mana blood started circulating in them, making them turn into golden red stripes, just like the heart but dimmer. His muscles started strengthening and healing the damage they had from daily sports, removing scars from the body. The changes to the body occurred over the period of the month in which to the outsider's eye he was asleep. Right after the changes began inside the system-made room, Aaron started recalling what happened. Looks like I overlooked security due to getting used to living normally most of my life. This was his first mistake since he became very rich in the course of days. His mindset didn't adapt to think like rich people. And before he could realize that he was attacked. The first and one of the cheapest things I bought from the system shop, cause some people to nearly kill me, he remembered when he bought Bug Zapper due to it being the cheapest, and it being on the same field he was learning before expulsion. But despite it being useless from the system's eyes to the people of this world, it was way too powerful of a tool to just leave it in the hands of a kid. To someone it was important enough to send a person to steal it from him. Who might it be? He asked himself while he started listing possible suspects. All security companies should be considered, countries that didn't receive the program before its public release, or anyone powerful enough to know that I'm the maker of the program and would want to have it on his hands. When he finished listing the suspects, he realized there was no use in even trying because the number of suspects exceeded his comprehension. How do I prevent it from happening again? He asked himself, making sure that he learns from his mistakes. Looks like I have to buy a security company after I leave the hospital. I need to change the house too to one where perimeter security can be provided without having any difficulties. With those ideas as a starting point, he began planning on how he can prevent something similar or more deadly from happening to him anymore. As for other measures, I will need to be awake and have current information to be able to decide what to do with them. With that, he decided to sleep on the bed made for him by the system. He didn't leave it because he wanted to spend his time there thinking about his other future plans, and not waste it by just sleeping while waiting for the system to finish its modifications on his body so that he can wake up and leave the hospital. A month passed like that, and Aaron's body was in its final phase of upgrades as only one organ remained. Ding! You will enter an induced coma during the brain's upgrade in 5 minutes. And it needed him to be in coma, as doing a brain upgrade while he was awake will be the same as upgrading a computer chip while it's on. It is a recipe for disaster and nearly certain death. He prepared himself and waited for the 5 minutes to finish. Ding! 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.0. With that, he lost his consciousness and the liquid started moving toward his brain, but this was done differently than how it was done to other organs. The moment the runic mana blood reached near the brain, it evaporated, turned to gas, and started surrounding the brain, creating a golden cloud around it. The density of the cloud continued increasing while the evaporating runic mana blood started being replenished by the heart, as it was being drained much faster than the usual amount used for the upgrade of other organs. The golden cloud was entering the brain, though slowly, as the system needed to be careful to avoid harming the brain and causing the death of the user and itself. It controlled the golden cloud, making it enter the brain in a wave pattern, enhancing every part it passed while losing its energy, and by the time the wave reached the center of the brain, it upgraded that part while using the last of its energy. This was followed by another golden wave doing the same thing, followed by another, then another and another. The enhancement were slowly but surely being made to the brain while making sure the owner doesn't become a psychopath or a mass murderer due to the system's mistake. This was to be done until the last of the golden cloud is spent. As for what enhancement he received, we will only know after he wakes up.